Hey folks, Scott with Leading Edge Archery. Hey, we're going to talk a little bit about a post follow-up to our big game arrow build video we posted. You know, in that video we went through exactly how to build an arrow really specifically for big game. You know, here at Leading Edge we feel really strongly there is a difference between hunting a Texas whitetail and going out west to hunt a big elk or even hunt a red stag, which my man Raul got a chance to kill about 3 or 4 weeks ago. And it was kind of cool because we took that big game arrow build, which were your arrows, correct? And then he went out and got on a really big, giant red stag hunt here in South Texas, and it was really cool to see the results of that arrow build come to fruition with that red stag. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and why it's really important to do some of the things that we do, and even talk about some of the things that why a big game animal like a red stag is a lot different than hunting a Texas whitetail. You know, even like a brown bear in Colorado. That kill zone being so important and some of the things that we are educating our customers on. I had talked to Raul about probably the week before he went on that hunt to kind of make sure that he had a good idea of where he needed to be when it comes to the kill zone on that animal and how to stay, what I call stay safe in the shot execution and where we're going to place that arrow. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about the hunt, I mean, it was pretty cool. I seen the video, it was pretty amazing.
So I probably went on, I don't know, 20 attempts, and this one in particular stock, I got within 74 yards of the animal. But as Scott was saying about shot placement, you know, you shoot so much, shoot so much 3D ASA, your muscle memory goes back to that same spot. So I was aiming for the crease, even though Scott had mentioned to pull a bit further back off the shoulder. And so 74 yards, the stag was at full alert. And I feel confident. I've been shooting out to 80 yards, and I was shooting, dropping dimes. I back tuned after Scott and I finished the arrows up, I went home and French tuned it out to 60 yards with the broadheads, the G5 Strikers, V2s. So I was confident in the actual flight of the arrow, and it was hitting behind the pin. So anyhow, I let the arrow fly, and basically as the arrow was coming down, the red stag turned away, and you saw the video.
Yeah. So the cool thing about that video is that he actually overlaid a 10 ring, we want to call it, over the vitals of that stag based off where the arrow impact was going to be. So if that red stag would not have moved, I think we would have had a good clean kill, double lung shot. You know, one of the things that concerned me, and I pointed out to Raul when I looked at it, man, he was tucked in way too tight to that shoulder, and you know, that comes from his 3D shooting. You know, we get in there and try to hit these little 12 bonus rings out to 50 yards, and they're hard to hit, and they're tiny. They sit on that crease, and really, from an educational standpoint, when you get into an animal the size of an elk or a red stag, which is a miniature elk in itself, you want to stay away from that shoulder. I mean, I tell every customer that comes in here, you know, the scapula of a big game animal like an elk or a red stag is extremely thick, and it's very big. I've seen more guys wound animals there, and it goes back to this big game arrow build we talked about. You know, if you get your typical whitetail arrow around 350, let's say, to 380 grains, which a lot of them are, you're going to hit that scapula plate and you're going to get about 2 to 3 inches of penetration. You know, on some occasions you're going to get lucky and you're going to get through that, maybe get one lung, and now you got a 50-50 chance of recovering that animal. We're trying to get away from that completely because there's so much lung area available on an animal the size of an elk or a red stag. And I got a chance to show him on, you know, Googling it, look at the anatomy, and I know from hunting elk for years and years, there's just too much real estate behind that shoulder that we don't even need to get near it. You know, almost to the fact you can almost shoot mid-body on some of these animals. I tell all my hunters, high and back, high and back. And stay there. It'll keep you away from that shoulder. You'll get through, worst case scenario, you're going to get a front rib, which if you do the big game arrow build like we educated our clients on, you'll get through that rib every single time, probably blow through both of them. And you know, that was a great testament of that. The great news is at 74 yards, even though that stag moved, you know, and got out of the way of that arrow before the arrow got there, I know for a fact that arrow build, being as heavy as it was going to carry enough kinetic energy at yardage to get through that animal and kill him humanely and safely, for sure. So what happened after that? I mean, so you got a chance to get back on
so
it.
on the third day, a different stag, ironically, we ended up taking one I took one at 28 yards. Got in there in a thick oak knot, and he was quartering away, and just natural instinct took over, and I just let it fly and double lung and hit the opposite shoulder. He ran about 80 yards, and he died in plain view, and it was an awesome hunt.
Yeah. Did you go a little bit farther back on that shot?
Actually, no, I didn't. I was aiming for the opposite shoulder because
Gotcha.
that's just natural.
'Cause the quartering.
The quarter, but see,
Yeah.
and I knew that doing that, I would still avoided the left side. It would have went behind the crease, way
Correct.
behind the crease, and aim for the, and that's
Correct.
basically hit.
So real important what Raul just talked about is making sure that you look and aim for your exit, not your entry. So you always want to look at an animal that's quartering to or quartering away and imagine, where's my arrow coming out? And if I can get into the vitals and get into that diaphragm or get and kill that animal humanely there, let's make sure and take that shot. So a lot of guys make the mistake of quartering away. They'll get in there and hug that crease, and they don't realize that they're almost getting in front of the lungs and the heart when they do that. You want to get farther back so you can get in and take, liver, lungs, everything out all in one fell swoop, and it's really important. But the big thing we wanted to talk about, number one, building those big game arrows allows you to shoot effectively at longer distances because you're carrying more kinetic energy. I always, use a saying, how far you can throw a wiffle ball and how far you can throw a baseball. The baseball being a denser object, of course, is going to carry farther and hit harder than a wiffle ball at the same yardage. So that's number one. Number two, making sure and staying away from that. Even on a Texas whitetail, a lot of people don't realize you got about 60% of the lung that sits behind that shoulder. We've just been educated and ingrained to stay in that crease, My dad told me that when I was a kid. And I'm just a firm believer, let the animal get quartering away a little bit, get back a little bit, get away from the shoulder. A lot of better things will happen if you do that. Worst case scenario, you get a liver, and even in that scenario, you're going to kill that animal. He'll die 90% of the time if you give him enough time. So just want to talk through that, make sure our customers were educated on it. Enjoy this video that you're going to see in a second because it's amazing. This guy does some great work out there, and he killed an amazing red stag that I hope you guys will enjoy.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.